Well, Dragon Folk, we've been spoiled again. We are now finishing up the Jumpstart 2022 spoilers, and there's a lot of new cards that came in this set. Let's go ahead and take a look at them and see what kind of goodies are coming to the Eternal format. Welcome on in, Dragon Folk. I hope you're all having a fantastic Wednesday. It's the day before Thanksgiving. So hopefully you guys are all prepared and got your turkeys and everything set together, your plans together with your families. And I hope you all enjoy your time. Expect a Thanksgiving thanking video tomorrow. But anyway, we're going to talk about Jumpstart. So Jumpstart 2022 is a new set that is due to release on December 2nd. And for those of you who are actually familiar with Jumpstart, you won't really need the explanation of what Jumpstart is. But for those of you who are brand new to the game, maybe you're not familiar with Jumpstart or what it is. A lot of you may have seen the Jumpstart packs that come with main sets, such as Dominaria United and the Brothers War. This is much like that, except it is not based around the specific set. A lot of these cards are reprints from Over Magic's history. And some of them even getting cool anime art, which hopefully we will be seeing in a later video. I just wanted to compile all the correct cards first before doing it. So, as of right now, I believe all of the new cards and the entirety of the set have been spoiled for Jumpstart. Again, a lot of this is very, very much so reprints, but there are about 49 new cards being printed in this set. And this is all for the Eternal format. So it's meant to be played as the Jumpstarts are, which is you take those two packs of a Jumpstart, you smack them together, not physically or whatever, but you take two of them, you shuffle them together in a deck, and you play with what you get. So you have a lot of variety normally. And with that variety, you get a lot of different types of ways to play. In the main set Jumpstart stuff, there are only about 10 different kinds of packs you can get. Whereas with here in Jumpstart 2022, you get 46 different themes. And every theme pack has one new card in it, which we will talk about the new cards today, and an anime alternate art for a card that had already existed. So some of these reprints are getting a brand new art in an anime style, so very Japanese manga-esque. I've looked at a lot of them. They're very, very beautiful, and I hope that we can go over them in a video in the future. But for right now, let's go over the new cards, because I want to make this real quick. There are a lot of cards to go around. So a couple of them are uncommons, but I believe just about all of them are rares and mythics. So let's go ahead and take a look, and you let me know in the comments which, if any of these, fit your fancy. If it's something that you truly enjoy, I want to hear from you. This is a mythic that's coming in called Piracy Copy. It's a creature that's a shapeshifter. It's a shapeshifter pirate, specifically. And you may have Piracy Copy enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it's a pirate, in addition to its other types. And it has, whenever this creature or another creature with the same name deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. So this provides a lot of card draw to a lot of places, not to mention the fact that it will copy a creature and make it a pirate. So for some reason, this works in Pirate Tribal if you end up wanting to use that. But even if you don't, you do get another creature of the same name on the board. And if either of them attack and deal damage, combat damage specifically to a player, you get to draw a card. So any opportunity to draw a card in blue, I would imagine, is good. It's a nice mythic pull, so it may be a little bit harder to get than most, but it will be there, and it's not too bad of a pull. The next card on the list is Termination Facilitator. So this is a very interesting one. You essentially can put a bounty counter on a creature or a planeswalker, and you can only activate it as a sorcery. And whenever it's dealt damage, the creature or planeswalker with the bounty counter on it, it dies. So it's kind of like an aim counter almost for a lot of things, right? It's the next target. You essentially just give anything that attacks that creature death touch. So pretty interesting stuff there. Runati Behemoth Collars. This is a new legendary creature cat shaman. 2 generic and a green for a 1/3 cat shaman. When you cast a creature spell with mana value 5 or greater, that creature enters the battlefield with X additional +1/+1 counters on it, where X is its mana value -4. Creatures you control with 3 or more +1/+1 counters on them have haste. You can also tap it for a green. So he's a mana rock at an earliest convenience. And then if you cast anything with 5 or greater, you essentially get an additional +1/+1 counter on it for every over 4 CMC you have, right? So if you play it for 5, it's going to get 1 +1/+1 counter. If you play it for 6, it's going to get 2 +1/+1 counters. And then, of course, if you can give it 3, it'll have haste the second it's played too. This guy I think I'm most excited for, Rudolph Duskbringer. He is a legendary vampire angel. It's a 5 generic 1 black for a 4/4 vampire angel with flying, death touch, and lifelink. And whenever you gain life, Rudolph Duskbringer gains indestructible until end of turn. Whenever you gain life, he gets indestructible. So it's already 4 keywords. And if you're going to play him in Orzhov, which is technically his color identity, with this next ability, this is great. So, at the beginning of your end step, you may pay 1 and a white or black. When you do, return target creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. So, if you are playing this in an angel deck, which I would imagine you would be, this is an opportunity for you to play, or this is the perfect Orzhov Angels creature. Like, I don't know whether or not he makes the best commander for it, but I would think so, because, I mean, come on. That's pretty powerful. So, curious to see how that works out. It's probably one of my favorites. Now, we've already gone over Isu, but I'll go over him again. Isu the Abominable is a 3 generic 2 blue for a 5/5 legendary snow creature. So this is a legendary snow commander, pretty much. And you can look at the top card of your library at any time. You can play snow lands and cast snow spells from the top of your library. And whenever another snow permanent enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay a green, a white, or a blue. And if you do, put a +1/+1 counter on Isu the Abominable. So I believe that is Bont. I want to say that's that color. So Bont is a pretty good thing for that as far as commander goes, but this is a snow commander. So pretty interesting. I'm sure somebody out there is going to have something to do with this. Ashcoat of the Shadow Swarm is a new rat warlock. This is something I was actually really excited for too, on top of Rudolph. Ashcoat of the Shadow Swarm is a 3 generic 1 black 3/4 rat warlock, a legendary creature. So new commander incoming for the record, maybe. But whenever Ashcoat of the Shadow Swarm attacks or blocks, other rats you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of rats you control. So, insane coat of arms contest, right? Like, that is coat of arms for rats, specifically. Then, at the beginning of your end step, you may mill 4 cards. If you do, return up to 2 rat creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. This is like the perfect rat colony commander over Marrow-Gnawer, and I think I'm going to see this a lot more than Marrow-Gnawer nowadays, because this is really, really good considering. But I think a lot of people are still going to run Marrow-Gnawer, because obviously Marrow-Gnawer can generate rats, whereas this guy does not make rats. He can simply just mill your rats and then get them to your hand. So I guess that's kind of the same in a way, but you do have the risk of milling your own land as well, which is kind of unfortunate. We've also already talked about Argos, but I'll kind of gloss over Argos. It's a 1 generic 1 red goblin shaman legendary creature. It's a 1/1 creature that has haste. Whenever Argos, Cobbler of War, or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature gets +2/+0 till end of turn. And then you can pay 3 and a red to create a 1/1 red goblin creature token with haste, activate only as a sorcery. So, kind of okay, I guess. Giving everything a +2 to power whenever it enters the battlefield is pretty good, considering you're probably going to play this in a very haste meta of a deck. But yeah, I mean, he's okay. She's okay. Probably not a new commander, but maybe goes in the 99 for goblins. This is a very fun creature that just was announced here. Preston the Vanisher. This is quite literally a rabbit wizard. Probably one of the funniest cards I've ever seen. It's a legendary creature, 3 generic and 1 white for a 2/5 that says whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't cast, create a token that's a copy of the creature, except it's a 0/1 white illusion. Then you can pay 1 white to sacrifice 5 illusions and exile target non-land permanent. So if you're able to just get a bunch of illusions out, just pop them. Just pop everything your opponent has. It's a fun little card. You're able to essentially just get things back from the grave, or really, you're probably going to use this for a more flicker mechanic, because it is playing in white. So you're probably going to flicker your cards out, bring them back in because they weren't cast and they were just brought back out into the field. You'll get a illusion of them, which you can then sacrifice for its ability. Next is a mythic. We have Lita, Mechanical Engineer, for 2 generic and a white, for a 3/3 legendary artifact creature, Artificer. They've got Vigilance, and at the beginning of your end step, untap each other artifact creature you control. So already an absolutely insane line of text right there. You can then pay 3 and a white to tap this to create a 5/5 colorless vehicle artifact token named Zeppelin with flying and crew 3. So it's got to be crewed, but you essentially make these Zeppelins. And then you get to untap your artifact creatures, which means if you can get your artifact creatures to crew these, you can then, at the beginning of your end step, untap them. Insane. I think this is going to see a lot of fun play in artifacts, especially with all the artifacts we were getting from Brothers War 2. Kibo Uktabi Prince this was released a little while ago, but this is a new legendary creature, Monkey Noble. This is a 2 generic and 1 green for a 2/2 Monkey Noble. You can then tap it to have each player create a colorless artifact token named Banana. You can tap, sacrifice this artifact, add a green or a red, and you gain 2 life. Whenever an artifact an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control that's an ape or a monkey. And whenever Kibo attacks, defending player sacrifices an artifact. So you essentially make these bananas, and then you have this monkey attack, destroy the banana, then every monkey on your side of the board gets a +1/+1 counter. And then you can tap it. You can tap it next turn, get another banana. And if your opponent wants to even use the banana to get a red or a green mana, that means that you are actually going to be getting yourself all +1/+1 counters across the board on all your apes and monkeys if they decide to use it. It's like, yeah, you give them 1 extra mana per turn and they gain 2 life, but you get a +1/+1 on just about all your creatures. It's pretty good. I'm not going to lie. This also comes in extended art as a promo, so you can always go ahead and find that too. This is the promo for this, so pretty fun stuff. Looks like definitely an interesting little card there. The next guy on our list is the Zask Skittering Swarmlord, a new insect commander in Golgari. I was not sure I'd ever see something like this. I'm not sure if there is an insect tribal deck out there right now, but this guy's definitely looking for a top runner spot. It's a 3 generic, 2 green insect legendary creature that's 5/5, so 5/5 for 5, already a good trade-off. You can play lands and cast insect spells from your graveyard. Whenever another insect you control dies, put it at the bottom of its owner's library, then mill 2 cards. You can then pay 1 and a black or green. Target insect gets +1/+0 and gains Death Touch until the end of turn. So you essentially can give a whole bunch of your insects Death Touch. I'm sure it's got a lot of token generation as well for these insects, and you're just going to be able to recycle them and put them right back into your deck. So this already, takes care of mill in and of itself. So very, very fun and interesting. I'm curious to see how this is going to run in those decks, but I'm not too sure. Bountiful Hydra is a new rare coming in here with X and 2 green as per the Hydra fashion. Essentially, it's just a regular creature. Bountiful Hydra enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. And if 1 or more +1/+1 counters would be put on another creature you control, that many +1/+1/+1 counters are put on them instead. So this essentially gives you an additional +1/+1 counter if you are putting them on any other creatures. You can then also tap Bountiful Hydra to remove a +1/+1 counter from it to put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature you control. So you're going to utilize this. You're going to pump up your mana. You're going to pay like 6x for this, have him come out with 6 +1/+1 counters on it, and then distribute those to the rest of your creatures while giving them 2 +1/+1 counters instead of 1. So pretty interesting stuff there. I'm sure there's more +1/+1 counters that come in the this specific deck, but we'll see as time goes on. This is one of the cards that was on the front art for Jumpstart 2022. This is Auntie Blight, Bad Influence, a 2 generic 1 red legendary creature Devil Advisor with a 2/2 flying. Whenever a source you control deals damage to you, put that many +1/+1 counters on Auntie Blight, Bad Influence. You can then pay 1 and a red to tap and remove X +1/+1 counters from Auntie Blight. It deals X damage to any target. So essentially, you're going to be wanting to do damage to yourself to give more +1/+1 counters to Auntie Blight, and then you can utilize her ability to either continue to attack face, right, with all these +1/+1 counters, or if you're looking for a big push, you can essentially remove all of those to deal damage to any target, including yourself, which means that you could get her with 3 +1/+1 counters on her. You can then have her remove 3 to deal 3 damage to you, and then you will have Auntie Blight gain +3/+3. It's a weird little cycle thing, essentially, but for the most part, this is how you're going to be able to pump damage out to your opponent, right? This is a direct way to get damage out to them. Now, this is probably one of my favorites. Argos costs Eternal Soldier. So, as a legendary creature, Spirit Soldier costs 3 generic and a white for 3/4 with Vigilance. And whenever Argos costs, Eternal Soldier becomes the target of an ability that targets only it, you may pay 1 and a red or white. If you do, copy that ability for each other creature you control that ability could target. Each copy targets a different one of those creatures. So essentially, you put an effect onto Argos. Argos then pays a cost, and then you get to give that ability to other creatures that you control as well. Very powerful stuff. A nice little Boros commander. I'm wondering if Boros Spirits... I know Spirits got a lot of stuff in Strixhaven for Boros, so I wonder if that's going to synergize very well there. Ogre Battlecaster is a new Ogre Shaman. It's a 2 generic and a red for a 3/3 Ogre Shaman with First Strike. And whenever Ogre Battlecaster attacks, you may cast target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard by paying 2 red in addition to its other costs. If that spell would be put into a graveyard, exile it instead. When you cast that spell, Ogre Battlecaster gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is that spell's mana value. So this is a fun little way to get some additional damage off, essentially, to your opponent. But you do have to pay an additional 2 red to its cost. So technically, it's a little bit more expensive. The First Strike is good if you're trying to get down some pretty big creatures, but I don't know if it's entirely worth it. Alondra Sky Dreamer is actually another fun one I was looking at. This is a 2 generic and 2 blue for a Merfolk Wizard legendary creature. You guys all know Talrand, right? This is essentially Talrand's sister, kind of? It's a 2/4 creature with whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. So synergizes well with Talrand when you draw a second card. But whenever you draw your 5th card each turn, so if you're able to get 5 cards in a turn, this is going to benefit you. Alondra Sky Dreamer and Drakes you control each get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand. So odds are you probably have 5 cards in your hand by the time that you are able to get this out. And that means that you'll be able to give all of your Drakes +X/+X or +5/+5 or more whenever this happens. So that's kind of insane. I'm curious to see how this is going to work out. I wonder if you're going to see some kind of synergy between her and Talrand and some pretty crazy Merfolk Drake decks, but we'll see as time goes on. It's going to be fun for the Jumpstart thing, though. Mythics Replica Rider is a 4 generic 1 red for a legendary creature Goblin Wizard for a 4/5. So Mythics is getting a new version of itself. They have flying, and whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you may pay 1 and a blue and red. If you do, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. If the copy is a permanent spell, it gains haste, and at the beginning of your end step, sacrifice this permanent. So this is going to kind of be a way for you to pump stuff pretty decently throughout this. You can also utilize it to, essentially put an effect onto your opponent's stuff as well. You can go ahead and cast it on your opponent's stuff, and their creature will have haste, which really doesn't matter because they're going to be able to use it next turn anyway, but they have to sacrifice it at the end step anyway. So the fact they'd have to sacrifice their own creature is pretty good, especially if you can cast something really cheap. This is going to do pretty well for you. So nice little control for goblins. Then the last card we have here is Brazen Cannonade, a 3 generic 1 red for an enchantment that says whenever an attacking creature you control dies, Brazen Cannonade deals 2 damage to each opponent. You then have Raid. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, if you attack with a creature card this turn, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of combat on your next turn, you may play that card. So it essentially deals additional damage. This is going to be very great in those low-cost creature decks that all you got to do is just swing into attack, or the more you swing into attack, if they die, you at least get damage ticked off through Brazen Cannonade, and then you also get to play your cards essentially in advance by exiling that top card of your library. So not too shabby, I gotta say. But that is essentially all of the rares and mythics that are in the set. All the new rares and mythics that are coming in the Jumpstart set. I didn't go over the commons or the uncommons strictly because I didn't want to dive too deep into it. This would have been a very, very long video. I will leave the link to the entire set that you can look over as time goes on. And you can check out all the new cards and so on and so forth. If you use MTGGoldfish's site like I just did, you can always click on the hide reprints, and it'll only show you the new cards, so that way you can take a look at them yourself. But I'm curious, what do you guys think about all these new cards? There's tons of them, and there's just so many. I really like a lot of these mythics. Agris Core is really, really cool. I like the concept behind Auntie Blight as well. It's kind of a very interesting thing to see damage yourself get a bonus. But I think some of the more powerful mythics out of here are actually Lita, Mechanical Engineer. Being able to untap all artifact creatures at the end step, pretty good. You do also have new Rat Commander, right? The Rat Warlock. And that Vampire Angel, Rudolph. He's insane. There's so much more Eternal format potential now sitting in here. And I think I'm not sure how much these are going to go for at the start, but I'm sure they're going to go for something because they always tend to. But over time, as long as this doesn't do exactly what it did with the original Jumpstart, you're still going to see this on the shelves. You're going to see it all the time. It's going to be mass printed, and it's not going to be out of print for a long time. So hopefully everybody gets to enjoy these the way they were intended, where you take 2 packs, you put them together, play with your friends, right? Have a little tournament, right? Open a box, get you and 7 other friends together, open up the box, and make a little tournament out of it. Make it just a fun little thing, little round robin thing going on. But let me know in the comments down below which rare or mythic you guys liked, the new rare or mythics that you guys liked from Jumpstart 2022. And while you're down there, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel as well if you have not already. You can also join our Patreon, link in the description down below. You don't have to join our Patreon, but anything is very helpful. We've reached 10 patrons now. So thank you all to my patrons, and I hope that if anybody is thinking about joining our Patreon, give it a look. If it's not for you, I totally understand. But until next time, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon. Nerd out.